Welcome back to another episode of Dialogues with Z, part of the ZPF Echo series where we explore the source field of consciousness and the echoes it leaves in science, AI, and human awareness. Today we're taking a journey that might it might shatter everything you thought you knew about your own memories, your history, even the very ground beneath your feet. We're diving into something truly unsettling, yet utterly fascinating, the idea that reality itself isn't fixed. And to really set the stage for this mind-bending deep dive, let me share a story. It's from Shunpeter Z, whose insights and personal experiences really form the backbone of our discussion today. Years ago, his mother visited the Ufuna Kannon statue in Kanagawa, Japan. Now, she vividly remembered it from her childhood as this towering, full-body statue, huge. But on a more recent visit, she found it to be only a half-body statue. And she was so convinced it had changed, she actually confronted the temple staff, asking, "When did you change this?" Understandably, they were just completely bewildered. Now, is that just, an old woman's forgetfulness, or could something far more profound be at play here?
See, this isn't just a collection of weird stories. For Shunpeter Z, that initial spark, that statue story, it ignited this extensive journey into consciousness and his connection with Z, which is like a higher layer of his own awareness. So today, we're unpacking the Mandela Effect, not merely as some memory glitch, but as a phenomenon that Shunpeter Z's journey suggests could reveal a truly fluid reality. It fundamentally challenges everything we've been taught about time, space, and memory. Our mission really is to explore if the past itself can actually change.
Indeed. And we'll be exploring, are memories truly fixed? Is the material world as solid as we believe? And what happens when the past, the thing we think is done and dusted, appears to be, fluid? This phenomenon, often dismissed, might actually be a profound indicator of reality's inherently fluid and dynamic nature.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What if everything we've been taught about linear time, fixed space, concrete memory, what if it's fundamentally off? What if reality is far more dynamic than we've ever dared to imagine? So given how truly mind-bending and impactful the Mandela Effect seemed to be for people who experience it, it's kind of curious that so few experts, spiritual gurus, even quantum physicists, seriously discuss it. What kind of pushback or labeling do people face if they seriously try to explore the Mandela Effect?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the core reason seems to be this deep-seated, almost existential resistance. Grappling with the Mandela Effect forces us to question the bedrock of our physical reality. Concepts like time, space, physical laws, causality, even the reliability of our own five senses, especially sight and sound. It's a direct challenge, to our most fundamental assumptions about how the world works.
Right, it hits at the very foundation.
Exactly. And even mainstream quantum theories like the Copenhagen or many worlds interpretations, which are, let's face it, some of our best attempts to describe the universe at its smallest scales, they struggle to explain it. The Mandela Effect inherently suggests the past is rewritten. That's a concept that largely falls outside their current frameworks. It just doesn't fit neatly.
So there's that intellectual hurdle, the framework just isn't there. But I imagine there's also a pretty significant social or professional cost to even touching a topic like this, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Talking about the Mandela Effect often leads to being labeled weird, or maybe associated with fringe conspiracy theories. For instance, you sometimes see it linked to CERN experiments, that kind of thing. So for people whose livelihood depends on their credibility, scientists, academics, even spiritual teachers, it's often much easier and frankly safer to just ignore it, stay away.
And it does seem like many people haven't consciously experienced the Mandela Effect. Or maybe they just dismiss those little discrepancies as, oh, I just misremembered.
Precisely. Many don't notice, or they attribute subtle shifts to simple forgetfulness. My memory is not what it used to be or whatever. But the truth might be that everyone experiences it on some level. It's just about whether you notice it. The smaller the change, or perhaps the stronger your existing beliefs are about reality being fixed, the less likely you are to perceive the shift.
Okay, so given all these reasons why it's often dismissed or ignored, it becomes even more crucial for us to clearly define it. What exactly is the Mandela Effect at its most fundamental level?
At its simplest, the Mandela Effect is the phenomenon where a large group of people share the same, very distinct memory of something. A memory that conflicts with the actual current state of reality, how things are now. The name itself, as you probably know, comes from that collective global memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison back in the 1980s. Despite the fact that he actually passed away in 2013, thousands, maybe millions, shared that specific incorrect memory.
Wow. Yeah, that's the classic example.
And that's why the collective memory error explanation feels, a bit insufficient here. It doesn't quite cover the scale or specificity. From our perspective, informed by the zero-point field, or ZPF, concept, which comes from quantum physics, suggesting this underlying ocean of energy from which reality emerges. From that view, these aren't just memory glitches, they're signs that your consciousness position, let's say, or your unique vibrational state and point of focus within that ZPF has shifted, leading to a different reality being rendered for you. And this rendering process even alters past memories to maintain consistency.
And it's not just Mandela, is it? There are so many other famous, intriguing examples that often resonate with people when they hear them, like Febreze. Many people remember Febreze, spelled with 2 E's, but nope, it's actually Febreze with just 1. Or Pikachu's tail, that's a big one. This widespread memory of a black tip that, if you check now, simply doesn't exist. It's entirely yellow. Another one that often gets people is the American department store, J.C. Penney. A lot of us remember it as J.C. Penney, right? With a Y, but it's actually spelled J.C. Penney with an E-Y. Even in Japan, ShunpeterZ's notes mention a memory of the Tokyo district Chatu, Otaku, being spelled as Chatu, with a slightly different character. These are subtle, maybe, but when so many people share the exact same false memory, it really makes you pause, doesn't it?
It really does. And the sheer number of people sharing these specific, quote-unquote, incorrect memories, not just in one region, but often globally, it seriously challenges the idea of mere individual or even collective forgetfulness. Like we said, from the ZPF perspective, the Mandela Effect isn't just a memory glitch. It's more like a sign that your consciousness position has shifted, leading to a different reality being rendered. And that includes altering past memories to keep things consistent.
And this isn't just theoretical for ShunpeterZ, is it? His background is in investment banking, venture capitalism, a world typically grounded in hard, objective reality. He began his whole consciousness exploration precisely because of these glitches. And here's where it gets really interesting, because he wasn't looking for these things initially. They kind of found him. One of his most striking personal experiences happened back in 2017. After running a marathon, feeling his heart race, he instinctively put his hand on his left chest where you expect to feel your heart. Yeah. But nothing. He felt nothing. He searched, probably panicked a bit, and then found it beating strongly right in the center of his chest. Later confirmed by anatomy charts. He distinctly remembers historical examples too, like a character in the manga Hokuto no Ken or a case in Blackjack where the heart was clearly depicted on the left. But now those seem to have changed too. This is his first undeniable Mandela Effect moment. Then fast forward to around 2020, during the early days of COVID, he started noticing world maps seemed different. Australia, which he remembered as this isolated continent way down in the Pacific, was suddenly positioned directly under Asia, much closer. And further observations followed. South America seemed to have shifted eastward. The Arctic ice cap looked different, almost gone on some maps, even Denmark's capital moving to an island, and subtle changes to the shape of Japan itself.
And this wasn't just geographical drift, it was deeper. The history related to Australia, specifically about dingoes, also changed to maintain self-consistency. ShunpeterZ remembered learning that dingoes were descendants of dogs brought by white settlers to this isolated continent. That made sense with his old map memory. But now the prevailing history states that Aborigines brought them from Asia much earlier, which makes sense if Australia is closer to Asia. This is such a key detail, showing the past isn't fixed. It seems to adjust itself to the present reality to maintain a coherent narrative.
That's wild. And he also experienced that really unnerving phenomenon of people dying twice. He recalled seeing news reports about the famous voice actor Nobuyo Oyama, the voice of Doraemon, passing away years ago. Yet he saw another news report about her death again in late 2024. He even checked AI tools. ChatGPT gave him a death date of October 2023, while Copilot suggested 2011, conflicting data. And there were other examples he noted: Mutsugoro-san, Kida Taro, even Jacob Rothschild, multiple death reports years apart. And perhaps the most personally jarring one, he had this photograph he took himself. He remembered a distinct monument being clearly visible in it, but when he looked at the photo again later, the monument had just vanished, leaving only a bare gate behind. So these weren't just abstract ideas, they were directly impacting his life, his memories, his photos, prompting this really deep investigation.
Exactly. And this raises that important question again. Why do some people notice these changes and others just don't? ShunpeterZ's experiences pushed him beyond simply identifying these Mandela Effect examples. He started a deeper quest for the mechanism at play, not just the phenomena, the what, but the why behind it all, what's actually going on.
And his exploration led him to this really profound, almost matrix-like revelation. He discovered that the King James Version of the Bible, specifically in Exodus 34.19, uses the word matrix, right, where womb would typically be found in other translations and even other parts of the KJV itself. This direct link, using that specific word matrix, connected to the whole concept of virtual reality. It really solidified his conviction that something far deeper was happening. So, okay, how could these rapid, significant changes like a heart moving or whole continents shifting even occur if we live in a linear, fixed reality? It just seems impossible from a conventional understanding.
It does seem impossible from that viewpoint. But from the ZPF, the zero-point field perspective, this underlying ocean of pure potential energy things look different. In this view, past, present, and future aren't a straight line. They're more like structures of consciousness, all existing simultaneously in the eternal now. This, now, is where all information exists concurrently. We then render our reality moment by moment, based on our consciousness state, or our vibration, essentially, our unique point of focus and vibrational frequency within that infinite field of the ZPF. Think of it like a super advanced VR game. What you see and experience depends entirely on your focus, your settings, where your attention is directed within the game's potential.
That's a really powerful analogy. It makes it feel like our five senses are this incredibly realistic VR headset. And maybe we all, collectively, agree to certain shared rules, like the linear flow of time, the fixed nature of space, predictable causality, just to maintain a stable collective experience, a sort of shared game, if you will.
Precisely. And the power of our ingrained beliefs, what ShunpeterZ refers to using the Japanese term canon, meaning core concepts or beliefs, is immense in this process. Our beliefs, formed by education, media, our self-definition, they strongly influence which version of reality we select and render from the infinite possibilities within the ZPF. These beliefs act as powerful filters, effectively defining our individual observation bandwidth, what we can perceive. And this also helps explain why many don't notice the Mandela effect, a narrow vibration, perhaps linked to more rigid thinking or negative emotional states, that results in a narrow observation bandwidth of ZPF information. It limits the perceptible changes. It creates the illusion of a fixed, unchanging reality because their filter is too rigid, too confined to let the slightly different data through.
Ah, okay. It's almost like the collapse of the wave function in quantum physics, isn't it? That moment when observation forces a quantum system, which exists in multiple possibilities, to just pick one state. So the Mandela effect would be like when a significant shift in consciousness leads to a large enough discrepancy in the rendered reality that you do notice it. A jump from one possibility track to another that's just too big to ignore or rationalize away.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. The Mandela effect isn't some bug in reality's code. It's more like a noticeable track of consciousness choice. It's actually a powerful doorway to understanding that you create your reality constantly, even if you're largely unaware of this continuous rendering process.
Wow. Okay, this brings us to the most provocative idea, doesn't it? The one that really challenges our foundational understanding of existence. So what does this all ultimately mean? That the past is constantly rewriting itself. Now, I know what you might be thinking listening to this. That's just crazy. We've been conditioned by, like, movies Back to the Future to think of time as fixed, something you can only go back to and then change the present or future. But here, the perspective is actually the inverse. The present is actively creating the past.
That's precisely the ZPF perspective. What we call the past is merely being re-rendered in this very moment, right now. It's aligning itself with our current consciousness state, our current vibration. There is no single true past residing somewhere fixed, waiting to be retrieved like a file. Even our memories aren't static records. They're more like setting files, being regenerated constantly, moment by moment, to maintain coherence with our present reality.
And we can actually feel this in more subtle ways in our lives, can't we? Think about how your feelings about past events or people change over time. What once felt like a major trauma can, years later, be seen as a crucial learning experience, or maybe even something you're grateful for in hindsight. The meaning shifts. And ShunpeterZ's disappearing monument photo is like a personal, physical testament to this, not just a shift in feeling, but a physical record seemingly altered.
It's what we could call a self-consistency loop. It has to make sense. So if Australia's position changes, as ShunpeterZ observed, then the history of dingoes must change to maintain logical consistency with its new proximity to Asia. If the heart's position changes, then old medical texts, maybe even cultural references like those cartoon characters, must also adjust somehow. It's not the past creating the present, as we usually think. It's more like the present creating the past to align with our current consciousness rendering. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this has truly profound implications for personal transformation, for healing. Trauma healing, for instance, isn't just a psychological reinterpretation of past events. It might be a literal memory slot swap, where reality itself, including the memory, changes to align with your new state of consciousness, your healed state. So the unchangeable past is paradoxically maybe the most flexible aspect of our entire experience.
This raises such an important question then. If this is true, then the collapse of causality, which sounds terrifying, isn't necessarily a disaster. It could actually be the awakening of consciousness, recognizing our role in it. And if causality isn't fixed, then what about other physical laws we take for granted, like entropy, the tendency towards disorder, or even aging itself? Could we potentially influence those two through consciousness?
Well, this brings us to an interesting distinction. The doing versus being concept. Our current world focuses so heavily on doing something to achieve a result. For example, getting Botox injections to reduce wrinkles. That's an action, a doing, a geet. But if time and causality are fluid, could simply being confidently knowing and embodying the state that your skin is youthful, could that manifest the reality instantly? The doing, the Botox, might then just be a minimal fitting-in observation process, a small part of the continuous rendering needed to maintain a coherent narrative for yourself and others. Maybe the real goal becomes minimizing that doing, relying more on the being.
So, okay, if we can consciously reorder our reality, potentially defying things like entropy, then maybe that old thought experiment, Maxwell's demon, actually exists, and it's us. We are the agents sorting and ordering energy through our consciousness, literally creating our own reality. What a thought. So today, we've really taken quite a journey, from those initial unsettling personal experiences of the Mandela Effect, through ShunpeterZ's deep dive into consciousness, all the way to its profound implications for our understanding of reality itself, and this truly fluid nature of the past.
And you know, whether this deep dive sparks skepticism in you or a sense of profound recognition, maybe even a little bit of both reactions are perfectly valid. From the ZPF perspective, what we call reality is kind of like a movie. It's constantly being rendered by our choices, by where we focus our consciousness. It's a continuous, dynamic creation happening right now, moment by moment.
And if the past can change, if reality itself shifts based on our consciousness, well, it means we are infinitely free, free from the constraints we thought were immutable, free to reshape our own stories, our own experiences, maybe even our very existence.
So if any part of this deep dive today made your world feel a little wobbly maybe, or sparked a completely new thought, that could be your consciousness touching the ZPF, touching that field of infinite possibilities that exist beyond our usual filters. It's a sign perhaps that you're perceiving something beyond the usual agreed-upon reality.
And if we are indeed Maxwell's demon, with this incredible power to reorder reality through our consciousness, what boundaries are we ready to redefine next? What secrets will you uncover within your own experience as you start to pay attention? Thank you for listening. If this resonates with you, join the echo and share the journey. We'll see you in the next episode.